Hi, good afternoon, all. How are we doing today?
Fine, thank you.
We're good.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Ms. Bullitt. Good
Good
afternoon, class.
afternoon. How are we doing today?
We're
All
doing
is well,
fine.
thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I was actually speaking to y'all, but my my speakers was off, so y'all couldn't hear me. So sorry
Good
about
afternoon, class.
that. So can everybody change their name in the can you hover over your name on the participant and just put your full name for the register, please? I see we have one person that says Sean's Third Fire. Are you familiar with how to change your name? Hello? Okay, I don't know if your mics are muted, but I can't hear anybody. Can you hear me, Demetria?
I can hear you, Ms. Bullard.
Okay, yeah. So hopefully that person will change and put in their full name, and we can take the register. We're expecting actually 25 persons in there. There's only 8. So I know some people might be ready for the road and they missed a class today, but I just want to give them a few more minutes just to join and sign on, and then we'll start. Okay, is that good for everybody?
That's fine.
That's good. Okay, so you would have received 2 emails from me. Did you have the opportunity to look through the emails?
Ms. Bullard, I glanced through. Yes, I did.
No, I only look at one, Miss B.
Okay. Who's this speaking Sean's third file?
This is Indira. I'm gonna
That's
fix that in a
Indira.
moment.
Indira, okay,
I'm gonna fix that in a moment.
Welcome
ma'am.
back. Welcome back. You know how to change your name?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sean is my brother's gonna do it if I don't know how to do it. We
Yeah,
can figure
okay.
it out.
Yeah,
One second.
just hover over the name and press more, and then it allows you to change the name.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. So let me just share the screen whilst we wait. We'll perhaps give them a few moments just so we don't have to repeat anything, but you can start to read the class instructions and let me know if you have any questions just before we start. Okay? So it doesn't look like we have any new persons here. Do we have anybody who was not in intro?
Yes, my name is Alicia. I wasn't here for intro. I wasn't there for intro.
Oh, okay, Alicia, I'm sorry. So let me just introduce myself. I'm Ms. Bullard. I've been with the Institute for the last 6 years. I teach both the intro to AML and compliance as well as intermediate. And then I also teach ICA, which is 9 months of AML, 9 months of governance, risk, and compliance. I teach customer service and I also teach supervisory skills. Most of my career was at the Royal Bank of Canada, so I have loads and loads of stories that I tell based on the Royal Bank of Canada. Okay, so I don't know, most persons would have introduced themselves in intro. This is a 3-tier course, is a journey that we're on. It starts with introduction, which is 4 weeks. And really, when you take introduction, you decide whether or not compliance is for me or not, because it's a very complex subject. It requires a lot of reading, a lot of research, requires a lot of time. And then 2 very remedial things. It requires comprehension after you do that research. You then have to comprehend, and I find that a lot of people have a difficulty reading, they have a difficulty comprehending, and they have difficulties making decisions. Okay, and so in those 4 weeks during introduction is when you decide, is this really for me? Do I want to go on to the next step? And most persons who go on to intermediate would have been intrigued from intro, because now after the 4 weeks of intro, the intermediate part is about 10 weeks. And so definitely you're halfway there after you would have completed the 10 weeks. and then you go on to the final stage of the journey, which is the ICA, International Compliance Association Diploma, and it's 9 months of anti-money laundering and 9 months of compliance, risk, and governance. Okay, so
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, some persons, you know, they have a compliance background. They may have worked in compliance. They may have, you know, participated in an annual training already. And so they feel, you know, they may have a first degree. So there's a few different criteria would allow you to bypass intro and get straight into intermediate. But definitely if you do that, you should know that you're on this journey to ICA. Have you made that decision as yet? Are you on that journey to ICA?
Okay, so let me introduce myself so you could have a little background. Okay,
Okay.
well, my name is Alicia 18. I am employed at Island Lock Head Office. My role is currently Senior Payroll Administrator. I currently attend the University of the Bahamas. I'm in my final year at the university. I'm studying banking and finance with Spanish. I did 2 levels of banking law, and I really was interested in that aspect because it requires a lot of reading. It requires a lot of case studies. So my teacher recommended me. She said, you should really take deep into compliance. So that's why I'm here, because in banking, I would want to take the route of compliance. So I said, let me start whilst I have downtime. School is closed. So let me just seek higher knowledge on compliance and see where it takes me. So that's why I'm here today.
Okay, so very good. You're definitely in the right place. Um, we seek to work with everybody to make sure that they achieve their goals. This program is very achievable. Once you pay attention, you come to class or you listen to the recordings, most persons are successful. Some people don't pass at the first attempt, but we encourage you, if at first you don't succeed, you try and try again. And definitely by the second and third attempt, persons are successful. Right up front, the information is a little cloudy, but if you stick at it and don't get discouraged, you know, like I said, it's definitely achievable. For the parents and the husbands and wives, I encourage you to speak with your significant others or get some help. People take it for granted. I have persons not setting exams or not passing because they are just overwhelmed. I'm a part of this club and part of that club, and the children have to pick up from school and I have to cook at night and I'm tired. You know, it's very tough to go to school as well as work from 9 to 5. So don't take that lightly. Okay, so this calls for a little bit of organization, and if you organize yourself, organize about 2 to 3 hours per week for study. And like I said, speak to the significant other, or some people has gone as far as hiring help, you know, not to have to rush from work and pick up the kids and rush home to catch class. Or a lot of people say, Miss Bullet, I on my phone stuck in traffic trying to get to class. And that too is a deterrent because you know, Miss Bullet is be overwhelmed and I have to unwind. And by the time I unwind, half a class already gone. So, you know, like I say, if you organize yourself, you will find that you will be able to retain all of this information that, you know, that we are sharing. Okay. So that's just some little tips on how to organize yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help and get some help at home with all the various roles that you play as parent and husband and wife. Okay, that's my 5 cents. Okay, anybody else that did not take intro and wants to introduce themselves? No? Okay. So I think more persons are here. There is a WhatsApp group in intro. This is a mixed class now because I would have had some persons that would have just taken intro last month and completed it, and some persons that may have taken it a semester or 2 ago, like Indira. So I'm not certain if any of the administrators are in this class, but again, that's a next helpful tip. If you work together, if you formulate a study group, if you share information, that makes it a whole lot easier. So I do encourage you to form a WhatsApp group and support each other. There's a bonus 5% as well where you attend a civic organization. It's not easy to go out and introduce yourself. You're a little bit intimidated for the first time. And so therefore, definitely pair up and, support each other and getting that bonus 5%. And I tell all my classes that 5% is the difference between 70% to pass. That's the difference between 65 and 70. So nobody has to call me and say, Miss Bullet, please, I failed by 2 or 3%. If you fail by 2 or 3%, Miss Bullet already turn your paper upside down and do everything possible to give you as much percent, okay? And also for the scholars, the difference is, 5% is between 85 and 90 to get that A, okay? So take advantage of the bonus points. You should be going into the exam comfortably with 30% by the time it's the exam come, and only needing another 40% to pass the class. A lot of people are overwhelmed and they say, Miss Bullet, I didn't have time to do the homework. I have never seen anybody pass the class without doing the homework, okay? And even without participating. So I have the instruction sheet up, and we'll go through some of the instructions just to make sure that everybody is clear, because it had to be tweaked a little bit from my last intro class. It was a little bit of abuse there. So we had to cut back some of the courtesies that we offer. Okay, I see a hand. Okay, good. Thank you so much, Ms. Dean. And if anybody wants to be the administrator of the group, just put your number in the chat, and can somebody please volunteer to be the administrator of the WhatsApp group? And that would help if you are interested. But if you're not interested, no pressure. Yes.
Hi, Miss Bullet.
Hi.
I'm still in the group, so I'll ask them to add the persons.
Sorry?
For the AML.
You're still
the
where?
WhatsApp group. In the WhatsApp group for the AML. So I'll ask them to add the persons. For
these, so y'all would have another group, eh? Okay. That's fine.
Because Owen's still in this group, and he can always send us the stuff for Rotary.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's good. So persons are putting the number in the chat. Are you going to send them all to Owen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much for that. Okay, good. So I trust that you had an opportunity to peruse the instruction sheet. There's classwork. And then there are a few handouts that I sent attached that we're going to discuss today. Of course, just let me know, like I said, overall, it's 70% to pass the class. For your 20%, there's one piece of homework due, and there are 4 essay questions. Each essay question has an expiry date. Please look at the expiry date, and if it's not comfortable for you, just pick another one. Persons like to pick the easiest questions because these are open book questions, and so you should get 100%. If you don't get 100%, Ms. Bullet used to, send back feedback and say, this is missing, this is missing. But persons did not stick to the redo date. So I won't be sending back any redos. Try and get help if you're not sure. And the essay that you submit will be graded, and that will go towards your 10%. So please ensure that you understand the question that you're asking. Okay, or in class, the first 30 minutes is always for newspaper and questions, and this course has classwork. And so if you're not certain what the question is asking, please ask, and we will go through it. Any excessive feedback, I recommend persons getting a tutor. Okay, because like I said, last class, there was so many abuse of the courtesies till it had to be discontinued completely. Okay, so one essay is to be submitted for a grade, 1,000 to 1,200 words. And of course, we know that the next step in ICA, there are no final exams. There's 3 papers that are due on the AML side and 3 papers that are due on the governance, risks, and compliance side. And each one of those papers are 3,500 words. And so this essay is for practice. Okay, and I've attached the ICA book, the handbook on page 17 and 19. They tell you how to reference. And I've attached that because I want you to practice their referencing style. I would have said this in intro that on those 3,500 word papers, persons would have gotten up to 30 and 40% off because they just simply did not reference properly, or they would have copied large pieces of law or large pieces of, you know, rehashing somebody else's work, okay? And so I want you to practice referencing properly, or saying according to the Nassau Guardian, according to the Tribune, and attaching, you know, your source document so it could be verified properly. Okay, so hopefully by the time as you get the intro, into ICA, you'll be fully trained on their formatting standards. Okay, please avoid copy and paste. Again, I don't even mark copy and paste because, you know, Miss Bullet is building a network here, and so I spend time, I get to know each other, and I just know when it's not your work, okay? And so please stop letting people do your homework. Stop just copying and pasting, because what happens is I give you 100% on your essay, and the essay is really to tell you where you're at in the class. You let somebody else do the homework, you get 100%. Ms. Bullet is no longer worried about you. 10 weeks pass, and somebody else shows up to the final exam, and you're getting 10% and 15%. Ms. Bullet said, what happened? This isn't the person who was in class, okay? So please make sure the person who does your homework is the same person that shows up to take your final exam, okay? It's nothing wrong with getting help, but to let somebody fully do it and you don't understand, that causes a problem, okay? And again, with essay writing, this is not an English class. There are different formats of essay writing that you learn in English, okay? And so therefore I recommend that you speak to Ms. Dean. If you haven't had English for a very long time, if you don't know how to write an essay, if you need help, and you may have been to college 100 years ago like Ms. Bullard, and you need a little refresher, there's nothing wrong with that. So just talk to Ms. Dean at the office and see if you could get into an English class, definitely before you go to ICA, because they are heavy on referencing, they are heavy on your format. And like I said, you could have good content, good information, but you can fail just off of format and, you know, not proper referencing. Okay, any questions so far?
No, ma'am.
No? Now remember, this class requires feedback and participation. Ms. Bullet isn't here to tell you all 1 million stories. Okay, no more holding hands. Now we at a higher level, and so what is required, everybody should have their book by now, is you read the chapter and we have a discussion. Okay, we want to move away from reading out of the book. We want to move away from Ms. Bullet speaking for 3 hours. Okay, this is supposed to be research-based and discussion-based. Okay, so please read. I know this is the first class, and some of you may have just gotten your book and you may not have had the opportunity to read. So please read and come prepared to discuss what you would have read. Okay, so let's just look at question 1, and this is, like I said, very popular. When we go down to the bottom and look at the final exam, it's a little bit different from the structure of the intro exam. The final exam has 1 mandatory question worth 20 points. Then there are 15 multiple choice questions. And then there are 4 essay questions, and you have 10 choices and you choose 4, but there's a mandatory question. 98% of the time, the mandatory question is this question right here, question 1. And so I encourage, this isn't due until June 17th, so that's about 3 weeks away from here. I encourage persons to do question 1 because it's the mandatory question, and everybody, that means everybody has to answer. So it'll be a good
That's fine.
practice for you to ensure that you have sufficient information going into the exam. And then you can focus on the other chapters and not have to worry about question one. Because like I said, this course requires like a little bit of organization. So I encourage you to do question one. However, if you choose not to do question one, that's on you. You can wait till the end and then just ensure that you have sufficient information to get 20 points, because this will be the only 20-point question. Every other question is only worth 10 points. Okay, you're all very quiet. You're all following me?
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go
Can you hear
ahead.
me?
Yes, go ahead.
When
Why are
go
you getting
scroll
agitated?
down
I
to the
have to
bottom,
ask you questions because I don't know.
just scroll
So
down to the bottom
who's
where it
getting
says the point.
agitated?
Drive.
Wait, we having another conversation, eh? What happened in here? We talking to Miss Bullet or we talking to somebody
I
else?
don't know, because somebody said they agitated already. So
And
Yeah.
I am trying to figure out who that agitated and we just start talking.
we just Miss Bullet is talk a lot. You all done agitated this in the past, you all. Hello,
Clearly they ain't never been in your classes before.
clearly Indira. Tell them, but Miss Bullet, please. Please tell them. Okay.
The total on the final exam, it seems like it only adds up to 90%. Am I correct?
No, it's not. It's 90 points, but it's you could up to 100%.
Oh, okay.
It's 90
Okay.
points. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we are here to ask questions and we are here to make sure that everybody leaves with sufficient information to be successful. That's what we're here for. So we talk a lot. Okay, so you'll have to talk back to me. Now, back to question one. Everybody follow me so far in terms of question one? Yes, no,
Yes,
maybe so?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
We understand that this more than likely is the mandatory
Yeah.
question on the exam that's worth 20%. And so I'd like you, of course, to look at your books, and there are only 10 chapters. Your book is very thick because, of course, you know, we give examples from the internet. We would have just taken different excerpts from the internet and put it to the back of the book so you can have examples. So I'm not certain because Ms. Bullet has an older version of the book, but you should see case 1, 2, case 3, case 4 with the different types of paper. And in my book, case 4 is the Eggman group. Do we see that? It says the Eggman group of financial intelligence units. Do we say that?
Yes, it's in my
Okay.
book. Yes.
Which case is it? Tell them which case is it. All of
It's
y'all should
case
have-
four. It's case
It's
4.
Okay, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the Eggman group is a group of financial intelligence units all around the world. What do we send to the financial intelligence unit?
The suspicious activity reports.
Very good, very good. Okay, so these are the various cases or suspicious activity reports that would have been sent to various financial intelligence units around the world. And so what they did is they grouped together the most common cases. Okay, so let's just flip over a few pages and look at the table of contents. Okay, do we see the table of contents? And it starts with contents and then introduction, and then it says the role of financial analysis. Do we see that? I think it's on page 3 or 4. Page
Yes.
3.
Yes.
Okay, so remember I say whenever you get a thick piece of body of work, you go directly to the table of contents. And so let's look at our introduction sheet or instruction sheet. It says, financial analysis has been conducted by a recognized group, marking out the identified risks in regions across the world. And remember, under money laundering, there are 21 crimes: tax evasion, bribery, drug trafficking, fraud, human trafficking, kidnapping, pornography. These are some of the crimes. The law refers to them as identified risks. using case studies from the Eggman Group on human trafficking, kidnapping, and illicit pornography, discuss the techniques and methods used for the flow of criminal money. Explain if any of these techniques and methods are used in the Bahamas or present issues for the Bahamas. Okay, so we're looking at our table of contents, and when we go down, we see there are 3 cases on the bribery, 3 cases on the drug trafficking, 7 questions on the fraud. It's a good thing we didn't select fraud this semester, and 2 questions on the human trafficking. And so in your spare time, we want you to read those 2 cases under human trafficking and then compare it to the Bahamas and find out, does the Bahamas have a problem with human trafficking, with kidnapping, or illicit pornography? Do we have that issue here?
Oh, yes, Miss Bullet.
Okay, because of course being known as a transit country, right? And
Yep.
we've had thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants smuggled in and out, right? And a lot of time they're not only going to America, okay? A person's make promises to them and then sell their bodies and do all sorts of stuff to them. They kidnap them. There are a lot of strip clubs here that are underground, right?
What underground? They no underground, Miss Bullet.
Illegal then. Illegal.
Oh,
What I
yeah.
mean. Let me be politically correct, please. There's that the police are unaware of. Is that better?
The police? They know.
How if the police is being
The police are the owners.
They know, and sometimes we the owners.
They stop before, but police in this class, because I almost get arrested in 2 other classes. I talk about the PLP and the police, and this man, one drop out of my class. One drop out, and so y'all be careful with your say. All right, so anyway, two cases under
Miss Bullard,
hi.
where can I
Someone-
find, where can I
Yeah, you
find
sound
the book?
very far away.
Where can I find the book?
You didn't get it from the office, from the institute, from Biff's?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you'd have to call Miss Dean or call the office, and you'd have to pick up a copy of the book from the office.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you read these 2 cases, and then you do an overview of the case again. No copy and paste from the book. We only want the pertinent and an overview, pertinent information and an overview. And then of course you'll go online, you'll research the Tribune or Court Bahamas or the Guardian and the Punching no longer, I don't think, and find out, is this an issue for the Bahamas? And I don't know if I would have told you all this, but I picked this topic because I had a guy in my class and he said, well, I work at the casinos. And he said about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, these very rich guys come in. They're millionaires and they come to play poker. And I said, okay. So he said, they bring these girls with them and the girls are normally non-coherent. And he said, I go up to serve them. I ask them if they want a drink, and they seem to speak English, but they don't ever understand. They can't even order a drink. So I said, what have you done? And he said, in terms of what? I said, well, when you signed up to the casino or to the job, to work for the hotel, they should have let you sign something that says we cannot fail to disclose and we cannot tip off. I said, do you remember signing any onboarding forms where you agree to that? And he said, yeah, perhaps I did. Or when we did our AML training, they refreshed all our documents. I said, okay. So this is something that if you're unsure, it could be legit, it could not be legit. You are supposed to have an internal suspicious transaction or suspicious unusual form, and you are to fill this out, because it's not only the transactions, it's not only the poker game, but if we don't work together and speak up about these things that we see, compliance is supposed to be everybody's business, and everybody has to work together to report these things. Because I say a compliance officer would not be in the casino at 2 a.m. and would be able to pick this up. So you are the eyes and ears for compliance. And he said, oh, Ms. Bullet, I'm afraid. I don't think it's confidential. I don't think anything is going to be done. These are our millionaire clients. I said, well, this is why people always get away with it, because everybody is afraid. Okay. And we delved a little deeper in that class, and we found that almost 70,000 Black women in America are missing. And nobody has ever said anything. Okay. So not only in the Bahamas, but as you do your research, look at what's happening in America and try and find out, is it everybody just turning a blind eye, or because it may be a certain ethnic group, nobody cares? If it's a certain culture, if it's a boat from Haiti, nobody's looking, nobody's concerned. If it's a bunch of Cubans, we ain't care, because that always happening, and so we have to be the eyes and ears. And so I encouraged them. I said, you don't have to go and do the investigation. What you have to do is fill out that suspicious form, send it to your compliance department, and your compliance officer will, arrange for some police officers or the security to accompany her or him to sit and see if it looks suspicious, or perhaps they can watch the video, okay, and see if they pick up on anything. But it's up to that MLRO to do an investigation, and they will never know if each one of us do not report when these things happen. Okay, so you should be able to find loads of information out there on kidnapping and pornography and human trafficking. Okay. Okay, any questions? Are we clear on what needs to be done?
Yes.
Who said yes? Let me whose name? What's your name? Who said yes? Demetria?
Excellent.
Yes.
Yes. That was me
Okay,
answer.
so tell us what, because I have to check on you, because you always say, you always come back and ask me. So tell me what needs to be done.
Let me tell you this right now. I should have said from the beginning. I sure you hear what I going through right now, right? You can hear my voice. I sound normal. Right?
Okay.
Yes, I don't feel good today, but I attending class. I have the cold, the flu, whatever this is. So I'm not trying to talk too much today. I am here, but I really don't feel well. But you was gonna ask me, sorry. You was asking me.
No, if you don't feel well, that's okay. I just want to ensure that persons understand what needs to be done. Okay, so let me
Yes,
call on somebody else since you don't feel well. Clavia, are you there? No? Okay, so Clavia, tell me, what needs to be done for this mandatory question? Even if you don't do it for homework, what would you need to do to ensure that you have sufficient information to go into the exam with?
Say that again for me. It was breaking up just now, Miss Buller.
Yeah, what needs to be done to answer question 1?
What needs to be done to answer question 1?
Yes.
Well, research, of course. Okay, hold on, mate.
Okay, where do we start? Where do we start?
To get to know the topic. So probably read up on the group itself that deals with the human trafficking, kidnapping. That's what we're reading, right? That's number 1.
Yeah, so we are going to read.
Get to learn. I would learn about the group first. Do some research on the group. Find out what they're about, what they do.
Yeah, so this is just the Eggman group, and this is a group of FIUs around the world. Okay, so you don't really need any information on them. These are the financial intelligence units, and like Indira said, this is where we send our suspicious transaction reports, and they go out and they do research.
Okay.
Okay, and so what you would need to do is read 14 and 15, the 2 cases under this topic. Okay, and then go and do your research and ensure you can answer the question.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, just want to make sure that you all understand. Okay, and if you don't choose to do questions 1, then there's 2, 3, and 4, and each of them have a due date. Okay, any questions on the homework, or is it clear? Okay, so of course, you should be familiar with the participation. The participation, again, is 10%, 5%. If you read the newspaper every day as a compliance officer and discuss and disseminate any information with your organization. So we want to practice that. We come to class, we read the newspaper, and we share it with the class. Then I have these various social media outlets. Of course, whomever, if you're regulated, if you work in gaming, you want to follow the gaming board. If you work for a bank, you want to follow central bank. Then there's Bahamas Financial Services Board.
Yeah, looking at the pictures right now.
Okay, which pictures is that?
I'm looking in the book, Miss Bullard. See if I can answer your question better.
Okay, no, we off that question. You mean question 1, Clavia?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, and I asked if there were any questions. They were silent, so I guess I'm moving on now.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm moving on. Okay, so yeah, so you want to just subscribe to the various social media sites, the central bank, the Bahamas Financial Services Board, and the Securities Commission. And then the 5% bonus points is for networking. You attend Toastmasters, Roto UAE, or Kiwanis, and you come back to the class and you share with the class. And please, there's a due date for that as well, which is July 23rd, because again, that was abused. We had 10 people in the last class trying to get their 5% so they could pass. And so we want to avoid that. And again, we don't want the entire class on July 23rd trying to get 5% as well. And then we have a lot of people that say, oh, Miss Bullet, I went and it was boring, I wasn't interested. So you don't get the 5%. Or something happened and I couldn't participate. No, you go, you introduce yourself. The whole point is networking. Because of course, if people don't know you and your name is not out there, it's very hard to move up, in corporate Bahamas. So put yourself out there, develop yourself corporately. And again, like I say, is where these institutions or civic organizations is where corporate Bahamas hangs out. So this is where you are supposed to be hanging out to get to the next level of your career. Okay, and get 5%. And I've already talked about the exam. Again, the exam is 70% of your grade. Okay. Any questions?
Miss Bullard, is it possible? Miss Bullard,
I
is it possible?
can you come closer to your mic? I really can't hear you.
I wonder why that's happening. Could you hear me
Probably
now?
turn up your volume.
Hold on. Let me see something. Okay, you can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Is it possible that you send this to us, please?
Yeah, I sent this in the email, the welcome email.
I didn't.
It was 3 attachments. Make sure you have all of it. I sent 2 emails.
Let's see.
You didn't receive it?
No, I only got second email with the Bahamas Mutual Evaluation.
Yeah, but if you got that first one, if you got the second one, I only replied to all
Okay.
from the first one.
Okay, I find it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay. All right, so we good? We good with the instructions? Okay, so let's move on to the second handout, which is class. So let's move on. Sorry?
Oh, a question too. Does Rotaract UB count?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and any other meeting that you attend and want to share as well. Okay, so all these questions, these 4 questions are past exam questions. Okay, So again, this is to a review, for you to practice on whichever topic. Like I said, you go into the exam prepared. And so if you want to answer the question on risks, that's an example. Number 2 is a question on risks. Number 3 is a question on risks. There are 5 or 6 chapters in the book on risk, or 4 chapters on the book on risk. And then number 4 is on SPR. So depending on what you want to answer, they would be good questions to practice on. Okay. This is classwork. Again, just in the first half an hour of class, where we ask questions and discuss what we would have read in the newspaper. You can ask any questions pertaining to the classwork. This does not have to be handed in, but by the end of each class, please do not leave without, or please do not come to the next class without ensuring that you can answer each question according to the chapter. Okay, again, all of these are past exam questions. Okay, and so some are multiple choice, some are essay, and all are from previous exams. Okay, and so on your exam, if you see one of these questions, don't be surprised or alarmed if you would have seen this before. Okay, so I want us to look at chapter 1 and ensure that we can answer these questions. Okay, so if we look into the book on chapter 1, chapter 1 just gives us an overview of our international regulators. So of course we know our local Bahamian regulators are the Gaming Board, the Securities Commission, the Central Bank, the Insurance Commission, the Compliance Commission. We know that they are local regulators. So chapter 1 goes over, it talks about the risk-based approach of the FATF, which is an international regulator, the Financial Action Task Force that created these 40 recommendations. So we would have looked at the 40 recommendations in intro, but just again, for a view, and these 40 recommendations should be on the case 1 at the beginning of your book. So of course, like I said, anytime you read a body of work, you check the date, because a lot of these policies and procedures are outdated. And when you Google, the outdated one comes out first. And so we click on the first thing we see. So we want to ensure that we don't write entire bodies of work which persons have done on outdated policy. Okay, so of course we know there are various tasks that the FATF carries out, and they identify money laundering and terrorist financing risks. They develop international standards for combating money laundering. They monitor member countries to ensure that they have proper systems and they're doing proper reviews. They promote the full implementation of their 40 recommendations. So we want to just look at the recommendations, and you go right to the table of contents, and we see assessing risk and applying a risk-based approach is recommendation 1. And so we touched briefly on risk in introduction, but the very first recommendation says countries must assess their risks and then put controls in place to mitigate their risk. Okay, so that's a recommendation. However, we know that if we don't put this recommendation in place as a country, what happens? What do they do? Anybody out there?
I didn't blacklist.
Blacklist you?
Yes.
Blacklist
Okay.
today.
Yes, very good. So we get blacklisted, even though they call them hyphenated recommendations, right? And so when we look at this risk-based approach, prior to the risk-based approach, there was a rules-based approach, which was just like a check the box type of system. And so instead of checking the box, each company is different. They have different products and services. They have different markets that they service. And so they want you to go in your specific market that you service, identify the risks, and make sure that you put controls in place to mitigate these risks. Okay, so let's look back at question 1. Explain recommendation 1 and the developments that the Bahamas made to satisfy these recommendations. Okay, so by now we should know that, and this is another very popular, I've seen this on the exam over and over again. What did the Bahamas do? So outside of this recommendation one, the mutual evaluation agreement, let me just stop so I can pull that up, that I sent to you would tell you out of these 40 recommendations, how many recommendations the Bahamas was deficient in. Does anybody remember? I've said it quite a number of times.
23,
I've said it quite a number of times.
Was it?
Yeah, so 22 of these 40
22.
recommendations. 22 of these. Yeah, so 22 of the 40 recommendations the Bahamas was deficient in. And this is the mutual evaluation report that I sent. It was done in 2017. And it just goes down the entire 40 recommendations, and it lists what each of the recommendations says and what needed to be done. So if we look up to recommendation 10, from 10 to 24, these recommendations, I guess the 25, they all deal with customer due diligence. Okay, so that's about 15 of the 40 recommendations specifically all fall under customer due diligence. So that was a big area. If I guess if you were deficient in one of those, you would almost deficient in all. Okay, but we're back to assessing the risk and applying a risk-based approach. So the easiest way to look at this document is, of course, we can see this is like 157 pages, and the whole key to compliance is there's loads of information out there, but we have to know how to streamline the information and pull out just the meat and what we need. And we also want to ensure that we can answer the question. So the easiest way to look at this report and find out exactly what happened is to look at these key findings in the executive summary. So it lists right here, the Bahamas is still completing its national risk assessment, has yet to develop documented AML policies. There's reasonable understanding of money laundering and terrorist financing risks among the competent authorities in the Bahamas. On the account of the NRA exercise, there's a need for this understanding to be placed within the context of the Bahamas as an international financial center, for it is to be shared with the Bahamas as an international financial center, and for it is to be shared with relevant stakeholders. Measures also need to be taken to mitigate money laundering, terrorist financing risks, a good foundation for national coordination and cooperation. Okay, so that's what they say they found. So of course, in answering this question, we would say, let's get back to the question, explain recommendation 1. We'd explain what it says, and again, we do not want to copy and paste this. We want to say countries should assess their risks, and then they should put controls in place to document or to mitigate that risk, put controls in place. And so, for an example, documentation of policies and procedures, and then give an example of what would be one of these controls that you put in place. Can somebody explain, can anybody give me a control that we would put in place at a bank to mitigate risk, or at any institution in the financial services sector? What would be one of the controls we put in place to protect the institution from money laundering and terrorist financing?
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so I would say one that we should put in place is, okay, persons come in the bank with checks, and majority of times, I guess, there's only one signature on the check.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 2 signatures should be on the check.
Okay, so very good. That's a control to ensure that there's no stealing, that this is indeed a proper check, that you could get one person to steal a check and sign it, but the probability of 2 persons stealing and signing a check is lower, right? So very good. That's a control. So what recommendation one is saying is come up with ideas on how to protect your institution, document it, and then put it in put it in writing and train your staff on it. So you would find that in most institutions, 2 persons are required for transfers or signing of checks, or they may say 1 person under 5,000 and anything over 5,000, 2 persons. Okay, so that's a control that you want to put in place. Okay, so risk is at 3 levels. There's country risk, then there's organization risk, and then there is client risk. Okay, and normally at each level you're either high, medium, or low. So of course we know at none of those levels nobody wants to be high. Nobody wants to be high, because if you are high risk, it calls for what type of due diligence?
Enhanced due diligence.
Enhanced.
Enhanced due diligence.
Very good. And we know that enhanced due diligence is just the extra steps that we take to protect the institution, more steps than simplified. So in simplified, we have low and medium and perhaps compliance signing. In high, we have high risk, PAPs, and we let a board sign or a committee sign. In simplified, we do Google searches. No, sorry, we do a world check. And in enhanced, we'll do a world check and Google searches. So it's just the extra steps that we take. And so therefore, sometimes interest rates are linked to high, your risk rating. Some companies and some countries say we don't do business with high risk. So everybody around the world is fighting to ensure that their country is not high risk. And one of the things the Bahamas did was they created the sand dollar, which is a digital asset, because being too cash intensive is one of the categories to make you high risk. And so the Bahamas created their own digital asset. It's not cryptocurrency. It's just a digital asset to help with the country's overall risk rating. Okay, so that is what recommendation 1 states. Okay, and so now that we know what it states, we want to look back at the question. We would have explained that. Okay, and then it says, what developments did the Bahamas, what did they do to satisfy the requirement of recommendation 1? We already read the mutual evaluation key finding. So we can put that in our own words and add that. And then along with that, I sent an update, right? And so this tells you exactly what the Bahamas did, because at one point, I think when the FNM was the government, the PLP had lashed out to them and said, we had been blacklisted by the European Union because one of our tax laws were not complete. And the FATF was coming in and they were going to check that that law was up to date, but the pandemic came and they were not able to come. And so after the government, the PLP government had lashed out at the FNM government and said, other countries are off this blacklist because they have had teleconferences. Why can't you have a teleconference? What is going on? Just because there are a pandemic, the country didn't close down, And so the FNM had put out this update, and this came out in September 2020. Now, I have not seen another update since then. Okay, and again, this is 16 pages. We don't have time to read all of this. And so what you would do, I think, press shift and F5. We know how to search, right? We know what to do, to search. Okay, Ms. Bullet don't know what to do. But you would just search, you would just put risk if you were searching in this document, and then that would tell you exactly what they did, what measures they took. And we can look right here where they said completion and approval of the National AML risk assessment in 2017, completion and approval of the National Identified Risk Framework. So it tells you, or you can put in the search recommendation 1, and they will tell you now, this document goes on to say that we have updated our country's risk assessment that's been outstanding from 2015 to 2016, and we have submitted it. But I have not, from this came out, this is the last update, and I have not seen anything in terms of the risk assessment being completed or updated, right? But in order back to answering this question, you would go through that update and you would list 1 or 2, 3 is the limit of the requirements or what they did to satisfy. Or you can use Google or the newspaper clippings, because they're very detailed and promoting, we did A, B, and C to satisfy this. Okay, are we clear on how to answer this first question? I gotta call names again. Sorry.
Hello,
I gotta call names again.
Ms. Ballard,
Sorry.
Ms. Ballard, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure that I understand what's required in terms of answering this first question for the recommendation. Are we to name the recommendation, say what the issue was, and then say what the correction was for the recommendation? Is that what we're doing for this?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. I get in a lagging. I don't know if that's my internet, but I get in a lagging. I don't know. I get in a lagging. I don't know if that's my internet, but I get in a lagging. Yeah.
I'm probably my internet. I'm not sure, but you were able to hear my question?
Yes, yes. Did you hear my answer? Yes, yes. Did you hear my answer?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Great. Okay, so question 2. Question 2 then asks you to list 3 of the deficiencies that were noted in the mutual evaluation report. So again, if you want to use recommendation 1, it's right there. Go right ahead. And then you can any of these in the key findings. Remember, there were 22. So again, all over Google, if you Google deficient recommendations in the Bahamas, you should be able to find out what we were deficient in. Okay, 22 of those 40 recommendations. Okay, and so that's how you answer these questions on chapter 1 and 2. Okay, is that clear? And you want to state, like I say, you can go to the update form and it just put in the search. If you say SDRs were deficient, just put in SDR and it'll tell you what they did. If you want to say the lawyers, accounting firms, and not lawyers, accounting firms and real estates were not regulated. They call them the non-financial designated businesses. You just Google that and then you say what the Bahamas did to fix that. Okay? Are we clear? Okay, so we want to look at this. This class is very, very quiet. This class is very, very quiet today. Okay, so we want to go through and we want to look at this mutual evaluation report. And we want to look at this mutual evaluation report. And we want each person to tell us what was deficient or give us one of the deficiencies. Okay, and so we'll start with Indira. Indira, tell us one of the other deficiencies. Look at the mutual evaluation report. Is Indira there? No? Anita, is Anita there?
I'm here, Ms. Bullitt. I'm trying to find the page.
Okay. Look through it. We'll give you a few minutes and everybody else prepare to look at the report and tell us what the deficiencies are. Or go on Google and you can just Google Bahamas was deficient in 22 FATF recommendations, and something should come up. Okay, so we'll give everybody 5 minutes to look that up. Okay? Clavia, Dominica, Sasha, Marika, y'all there?
I am Miss Bullet. I look and
Okay,
I feel it right
okay,
now.
great. All right, very good, very good.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Donico is here as well, looking.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
So,
Miss Ballard,
Hi.
Question, was one of the deficiencies that persons were not assigned to action and assess risks? I think I'm trying to go back to last class, in the intro class. Just a question.
Okay, look at the key findings, and the key findings would be able to tell you.
Okay.
So Miss Bullet. Hello?
Hi, Clavia, you saying something? Anybody have their own yet and want to start? No? Okay, we'll give you 2 more minutes.
Okay, I can give one.
Ed, go
You,
ahead.
you can hear me because it's like y'all going in and out. So sorry.
Yeah, there's something delayed about it. I don't know what it is, but you could go ahead.
So particularly reading something now on the FTA website. I remember that from intro that one of the recommendations were that we had to, because we were never tried and convicted anyone in regards to money laundering or anything like that. I know that was one of the things that we had to put in place. We had to come up with some sort of legislation so that people could be tried and, I guess, found guilty of committing those type of crimes. Oh Lord, I can't hear. Hello?
Yeah. Clavia, yes, making money laundering a predicate crime.
Okay,
Correct.
so you can hear me now? 'Cause it
Yeah,
went-
you,
it
like I
went
said, it's just delayed. I can hear you, but it's delayed.
Okay, okay, so that was one of the recommendations, and that was the solution that they came up with. They made it, they made mandatory, I guess, legislation so that we could be able to bring people before the court.
Yes, correct, correct.
Miss Bullet, I'm reading this thing, right? But I think I remember from intro also where it said supervised financial institutions were not efficient with financial institutions. Am I correct? Hello?
Sorry, say that again, Anita. It came through as an echo. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I was saying from what I remembered in the intro class, I'm reading the key findings, but I think I remembered one of the deficiencies was supervised financial institutions were not efficient with financial institutions. I think it's something like that.
Yeah,
And
so
I think the solution was the countries now completing or putting the necessary procedures in place to complete the risk assessment.
okay, yeah, so I a little bit confusion with what you said. SFIs are the supervised financial institutions, which means whomever the gaming board regulates, whomever the Securities Commission regulates. So the Scotia banks, the broker dealers, you know, what have you. And so they are the supervised financial institutions. The regulator did not have like anybody to supervise. I mean, the central bank had a staff, but what they did is they had to create an entire analytics department. Okay, and so this analytics department was hired at the central bank, at the Securities Commission, at the Compliance Commission, at the Gaming Board. And what they did is they supervised and carried out internal audits and ensured that everybody was following what the law says, and they also enforced the law. Okay, so yes, that's what that meant.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, so anybody else? And again, this is just so I want you to be able to understand how to read the document.
Alicia 18, I would say new technology.
Okay, what about new technology?
Well, based on what they have here, they have new technology, but I'll say to mitigate money laundering and to make services more smooth. Because if you have certain things in place with technology, then that will mitigate all the risks of stuff happening.
Hello? Go ahead, Sasha.
I just wanted to make sure you could hear me. And Dira said that her tablet is freaking out on her headphone. She said she can hear everything, but she can't respond to anything.
Okay, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Sorry, we were speaking to Alicia. You are reading the recommendation and understanding it, Sasha?
Understand it to find a deficiency.
Okay, okay, all right. So Alicia, back to your technology.
That's fine.
Okay, just repeat what you said for me, please.
No, I said based on what they had posted, they had new technologies. So I said, if new technologies is in place, it mitigates the risk factor of anything happening with money laundering, because now there are modern technologies that will be able to pick up on certain things, and people wouldn't risk doing certain things because they'll need high security factors in order for it to happen. So they wouldn't chance that. That's my response to it. I don't know if it's right or wrong.
Yes, okay, Alicia. Thank you. I just want to make sure that a few of you understand this. I know it's very easy just to sit here and listen to Miss Bullet talk, but we all leave not understanding. And this is a dive deeper than just intro. Okay, so we need to ensure that when we leave, we can answer the questions as well as the classwork. Okay. Okay, good. Are we good? And we are understanding. Okay, it's good. Are we good?
Miss Bullard,
And we are understanding.
I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure that I follow. So would one of the answers, I guess one of the answers to this question would be that we didn't have a system in place to target financial sanctions as well?
Yes. Yes. Very good. Very good. And like I say, if you go to the update, very good. If you go to the update form, it'll tell you exactly what we did. If you go to the update form, it'll tell you exactly what we did.
Right, to correct it.
Correct. Okay. Okay, good. So correct. Most of you seem to understand how to look at the document and pull the information out that is relevant. And then, like I said, later on, when you do your research, you will look at the update form, and the update form will tell you exactly how they satisfy those requirements. Okay. Okay, so very good. I need you all to participate now and ensure that you all give me some feedback and talk back to me. So of course, by now we all know who the FATF is. Financial regulator, created the 40 recommendations. And then of course we know if countries do not put these recommendations in place, they can be labeled as high risk. No country wants to be high risk. They can also be blacklisted. And once you're blacklisted, you suffer loads of reputational risk, and many countries don't do business with you. Okay. The FATF has various regional bodies. They have some a group dealing with Asia. That's the Asian Pacific group. They have one in Central Africa that deals with all over Africa. They have somebody in Europe that deals with the European countries. Which part or which group is the Bahamas a part of? Which FATF?
The Caribbean.
Correct. And who is the chairman of the Caribbean FATF? Does anybody know?
Oh God.
Bethel.
Very good. And that's our past Attorney General. And does anybody know the importance of him being the chairman now?
Well, what I feel with him being the chairman, okay, we would more as a country, I guess, we would be more updated, or how can I say
Well, it could
how can I
decrease
say
the
we could
chances of us
be
being blacklisted.
right? We will be
Right.
Okay. Yes. So
This is one of the corrections to one of the 20.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying about a correction?
Isn't this one of the corrections to one of the 22?
Sorry, you were saying about a correction?
Yes.
Miss Bullet.
With Carl Bethel being isn't this one of the corrections to
what
the
happening
22
is if you're not speaking, if you mute your mic, I think
would have
that's
been
what
the 20
happening is if you're not speaking, if you mute your mic, I think that's what happened.
No, my mic was mute, but it's like 5 and 6 people talking at the same time.
No, right, just persons have their mic up and people in the background are talking. Right, just person. There you go. Yeah, see, persons had their mics up and the people in their house talking, and so we was getting a lot of that. Okay, is it better now?
Much better, much better.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. So go ahead. I think it was you, Demetria.
No, someone already jumped in and started answering, so I just muted.
Okay.
Hello,
Hi.
Miss Bullet.
Hi.
You can hear me now. This is me.
Yes. Yeah, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, I have to switch devices, but I think the reason why for Carl Bessel being the president or whatever you want to call it, because his party is not in power right now, he wouldn't be let's say he wouldn't withhold information because he wouldn't feel that pressure from the PM because he's not on that side of the fence. So Carl better be able to assist without bias. That's how I look at it.
Okay, very good. He would be able to assist without bias. However, remember when we get on the international scale now, there's no more PLP and FNM. It's Bahamian, right? And what we saw from when Ryan Pinder was the Minister of Investments and Peter Turnquest, we always had to fight. The Bahamas was blacklisted at least 3 times in error, right? And I always say, if you don't have a seat at the table, nobody represents you. And so there was deadlines that we had to meet where we
I
met
was about to say
deadline.
that.
Sorry?
I was about to say that. I was
Yeah.
about to say the fact that he's actually at the table, we'll know what we are supposed to have done, to have it done in a timely manner. So we'll actually like have the heads up.
Correct, correct. Because like I said, we suffer reputational risk when they blacklist us, even though we would have done what we were supposed to do. And I think the last time they blacklisted us in error, they said that we had met the deadline. However, their technical team did not advise them in time, and they went out to the media and blacklisted us. And we suffered reputational risk. And so then they said they promised not to do it again without letting us know, and they did it again. Okay, and so when they did it this third time, we saw that, you know, most of the persons on these boards internationally are the prime ministers and presidents of these various countries. And so they go there to defend their country or to make sure their country's you know, agendas are met. And so therefore, if you don't have any representation, if you don't have a seat at the table, nobody speaks on your behalf. And so when they say blacklist the Bahamas, nobody going to check and say, wait, the Bahamas do this. They say blacklist, you know, they vote. So, and again, with us being blacklisted, we are the competitor in some cases to some of these countries. And so if the Bahamas is high risk and nobody doing business, then I go into Switzerland, then I go into somewhere in Europe, and that's a loss of business for us. Okay, so Carl saw that there needed to be representation. Okay, and so not only is he the chairman of the FATF, no matter whether the PLP or the FNM win, he will make sure that he won't sign off on anything that would damage the Bahamas. Because again, a lot of times, like I say, it's different prime ministers or various members of parliaments that sit on these associations and at these international levels in order to ensure that their country does not suffer. Okay, and so it was not only the Bahamas with 21 deficiencies or 22 deficiencies all over the world. You know, Switzerland had 25. There's a book that tells you how many, you know, countries had deficiencies. And again, regulation is expensive. The Bahamas took a staggered approach. These laws have wiped out 17% of our GDP in regards to the financial services sector. So financial services used to be 20%. It's reported that we have lost 7%. So I asked them, is banking and finance really our second sector? And I spoke to Shivago Lang about this, and I said, if we've lost 17%, what really is our second sector? And he said, it's still financial services. They hope for it to rebound. And this was even before the pandemic. Okay, it was just because of all this regulation. Because think about it. In 2019, a real estate company could not get their license if they did not have an MLRO on staff. That's minimum $50,000 plus all the trainings, plus the systems that need to be in place. So if you were going to hire a MLRO for the first time in 2019, so you could get your license, you needed minimum $100,000. Okay, and if you were just a two-person law firm, you might have to shut down. So we saw a lot of shutdowns in the law firms. We saw a lot of shutdown in the real estate companies. And this is not the criminal law firms. These are like the Higgs and Johnsons and the KPMG, the ones that have a corporate service provider arm. Okay, these are the real estate companies that do financial services on behalf of their customers. Okay, so I don't want you to be confused about the little smaller ones. But even so, the medium-sized ones, a lot of them simply did not have the money. And they say, well, we showing up to the ICA class and we're going to get this diploma so we could be approved as the MLRO. And then they realized how much work it was. And so some of them had to just shut down. Okay, so this is why the Bahamas took a staggered approach. The central bank had to hire, I think, 20-something persons in their analytics department. Okay, all those persons, they needed a desk to sit at, they needed a computer, operational costs now increase. Then they had to go out and get trained, and then a continuous training. And nobody would have given us any money. Nobody would have subsidized this for the Bahamas. And you know, one of our complaints was that we are not America. Okay, America, just for their tax laws, when we get to taxes in chapter 3, you will see that they spent $18 million to upgrade their IRS just so they could collect taxes from around the world. So if they spent $18 million, that means they must have made at least 50 million, right? Because they didn't lose. Okay, but nobody gave the Bahamas any money to update their tax system so we could hire people, train them, put in a system to be able to send this information to America. And again, if we didn't do it, we blacklisted. Okay, regulation is very expensive, and most companies and countries have to take a staggered approach, or sometimes you saw a lot of banks just shut down. We just don't have the revenue to do it. Okay, so just so you would understand how it works. The book goes on to talk about the process of the mutual evaluation. It talks about the countries that have the strategic deficiencies to let you know it's not only the Bahamas. Then they talk about the IMF. We learned about the IMF in intro, where we saw that they, saved us most of the times. It's the big bad regulator, right? And they blacklisting us, and we always in trouble. But this time, they had a strong arm on us, and they said, fix your disaster relief plan. We fixed it, and luckily, we were able to claim from the insurance. We had Hurricane Dorian that blew out Abaco and Grand Bahama, and so luckily they strong armed us that time, and it was to our benefit. Okay. The UN, again, we have Bahamian Representative Keva Bain. She is the president of the United Nations Association. She is Bahamian, and then we have another Bahamian out there that is representing us. And so I always encourage persons who would in these classes, even if you don't stick with compliance, your country needs you. Okay, your country truly needs representation. We need knowledgeable people. We need people who don't have an ulterior motive. We need persons out there working. We need a whole revamp of the government. We have 2 persons now. I was very proud in this last election that had just completed ICA, and they were on the ticket, the campaign trail. I was very proud, and that's where it starts. Help your country first, and then go internationally, because that's what, like I say, the persons in Switzerland are doing, the persons in Turkey, around the world, they have that representation, and they come out, they have a chance at the end of all of this. But no representation, you're blacklisted. You don't know how to implement these things in the country, and the citizens suffer. Okay, and so it says the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime was set up in 1997. the United Nations implement the crime prevention criminal justice program. There's a convention against trafficking in narcotics and psychotropic substances. Are we familiar with these psychotropic substances? Have we heard about them? Is there any awareness? Do we know? Does anybody know what that is? No? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Say it again.
No.
Yeah, so have you all heard about this opioid crisis that's going on in the States? A lot of homeless persons are just dropping down dead. At least 500 homeless persons in New York just dropped down from a substance. So the pharmaceutical company made this drug and it was too strong and the FDA did not approve it. And so they claim that they threw it to the garbage and the Joneses or the homeless persons dug into the garbage and started to distribute it. But somebody has been selling it and it is just, the people are dropping down like flies. Okay. So is this,
Wow.
yeah. So that is considered a psychotropic substance. Okay. Just so
Okay.
you are aware. And then there are other groups like the Wolfsburg group, the Basel Committee. Of course, we know we would have looked briefly at the Basel Committee, another international regulator. They changed from the rules-based approach to the risk-based approach, and they are ensuring that the regulators enforce it in each country. Then there's the Wolfsburg group, and I can just show you back in the day, the Wolfsburg group they deal with correspondent banking. So any bank that sends a wire, let's pull this up. Let me see if I can pull this up so you can see. Any bank that sends a wire. So the Wolfsburg group is a group of the 8 largest banks around the world. And these banks are Deutsche Bank, Chase, Wells Fargo. And of course, if you've ever sent a wire, you would know that, there's always a correspondent bank. Okay, so along with the 40 recommendation, then there's the Basel Committee in all of their rules. And then if you offer correspondent banking service, there are wires being sent all day long. And so, like I said, this is the 8 largest banks around the world, and they came together and they put in standards that all banks should follow. And here you go with the 8 largest banks: Banco Santander, Bank of America, Barclays, Citigroup, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, HSBC. Yeah, these are the 8 largest banks around the world. So if you offer correspondent banking services, your money goes through one of these banks. Okay, and so they have standards, and one of the standards just to even offer this service is a form that you have to fill out. And just before the laws changed in 2018, this used to be, let me stop the share so I could pull it up properly for you. There used to be a 28 question survey that we answered. That was small. Today, it is 200 questions that you answer. Okay, and after you answer that 200 questions, and you have to submit it for approval, and if it's not approved, then you're not able to offer those correspondent banking service. And if you're in the offshore world, that's a very, very big problem, because people don't walk into the bank. All they do is they send wires, and so if you cannot send wires, then, like I said, you have a very big problem. Okay, so I was trying to pull it up so you'll see the type of questions that they ask. But in terms of even that correspondent banking survey, that's 200 questions, they have at least 500 different policies and procedures that you follow as well. according to the Wolfsburg group and what their rules are. So again, I just want you to have the awareness that it's just not the 40 recommendations that have to be put into law. There are the Wolfsburg principles that have to be put into law. There is the Basel Committee rules that have to be put into law. There is the OECD principles on common reporting standard, FACA, and CRS. All of those have to be put into law. Then all the laws regarding the sanctions have to be put into law. Okay, so it's not an easy process for the government, you know, to ensure that all those 40 recommendations plus the Wolfsburg plus the Basel and any other group is all put into law. And then not only is it put into law, there are persons that have been identified to enforce these laws, hence the analytics groups. Okay, so I don't want you to only be close to just the 40 recommendations, but all these various, we call them the international regulators. They have their different rules, and all of it has to be put into Bahamian law. Bahamian law, then the regulator then create guidelines, and then your organization also has a guideline, an AML policy that will encompass all of the international regulators and their recommendations and their rules. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah.
Questions? It was a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want, that's what chapter 1 talks about, the various international regulators. Recommendation 1, the task of the FATF after they would have came in and evaluated their country, then they follow up. And they follow up, they have now a group, whereas the FATF, like I said, wanted to come into the FIU and help them with some of the cases in 2020, but of course the pandemic came, and whilst they were here, the FATF was supposed to check to make sure that our tax laws were up to date, and they weren't doing that for them. They were checking on the tax laws for the OECD and the European Union, because the European Union had complained that our tax laws were not sufficient, which they were updated to say that anybody who would have evaded VAT and duty could have gone to jail, and they wanted it to expand to say international tax. And so in December 2020, they fixed that to, you know, to include it. But like I said, I don't know if that was intentional, but we have used the staggered approach because it was expensive and because each time a law now goes into place. Remember, now we used to be a tax haven. And so first we got rid of all our secrecy laws. Then there was data protection. Then now they want us to put in a law that says, even if you from Switzerland and you open an account in the Bahamas, we are going to disclose that to Switzerland. And so you're going to have to pay your taxes to Switzerland. So of course, when we announced that we are going to now update this law, everybody in Switzerland is going to say, okay, well, if I still have to pay taxes to Switzerland, there's no need for me to keep my money in the Bahamas. So of course, everybody just closed out their account. So we had persons who had a Swiss portfolio lost like 80% of that portfolio. Okay, and so this is why, like I said, the country takes a staggered approach because it's expensive. Then you have to train your staff, and then you lose so much business and you're gaining an expense. Okay, so it's like a double-edged sword. Okay, is that clear? Do we understand?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Are there any questions on chapter 1?
No.
No, okay. Okay, guys. So we'll stop there. I really want you to take some time and ensure that you look over questions 1 again to ensure that you understand. and you know how to read the document, please come prepared for next class. This is not going to be like intro, okay? Because I'll have to give more classwork if we're not getting the participation. And so,
Ms. Paulette,
yes.
question. Now, how soon is Mr. Pratt gonna have is gonna have these YouTube's recordings available for the class?
Well, he has all of that in his link. He has all of that in his link, right? So,
I don't know.
Yeah, the link that you got to sign into this class, he
So-
tells you how to access it, and I think he also has minutes going to be there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I probably overlooked that piece.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I know that's a big issue. So he's trying to get that under control. So if you need to just flip him an email, that'll be fine as well, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Okay? Okay, but for next week's class, I want you all to read chapter 2, talks about tax evasion, and Google what's the latest out there, and we'll talk about it, and we'll ensure that, look at the questions from the classwork, and so make sure that those are the questions you want to discuss. You want to come saying, Ms. Bullet, I know what a W8 is. I know what a W9 is. I know what FACA is. I understand CRS. Okay, that's the expectation for next week. Okay, and so if there are no other questions or concerns.
Yes, I have a question, Ms. Bullet.
Go ahead.
Now, in regards to the 20% essay, okay, you said there wouldn't be no redoers. Okay, let's say if I decide to do question 1, right? And I submit, even though the due date is the 17th of June. If I submit that to you, let's say the weekend of the holiday, just to peruse and to see if I need to add more meat or subtract or whatever. We have any chance, but the class be given any opportunity to do that?
Indira, I don't have a problem helping anybody, but like I said, my help has been abused, and I've been reported for not being helpful after I reviewed one paper 10 times.
You review one paper 10 times?
One paper 10, and I was
you weren't
reported,
helpful?
right.
Oh, wow.
So this is why all the concessions are
Lord.
cut out.
So it's just
Okay.
a one-shot deal.
Yeah. The one job, if you need to get a tutor, and that's why I say work together, create the WhatsApp group and get a tutor. Some persons need a tutor. I recommend getting a tutor because, like I said, I can read it once or twice, but every time this person wanted 100%.
No, I just expect
and so they
you.
will fish every time. I say, if I give you the answer, you really think that you deserve 100%. And so
all I need you to tell me if I between 70 and
if you're on the right track.
Right.
I have no problem.
That's all I need. I'm not trying to get the perfect score.
Okay,
I mean, I normally try to, but if not at this point.
Yeah, so I can do one review. I can't do 10.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Fair enough.
Well, Miss Paulette, who report you when you was going above and beyond and
You understand me? That person didn't have no sense.
Clavia, you heard us right? You was in that class, right, Clavia?
What? No,
Okay.
Miss Paulette, tell them stop the drama.
You understand?
They were, and then they went as far as to tell me that I
Hey,
do it for
Miguel,
other
make
people.
sure I cut this piece out, eh?
Yeah, they say, but you do it for other people. I said,
no,
okay, if you know
what you
Oh,
and I'm
wow.
gonna be clear about this. What you did, even though I scored good, you still made pointers in your email to me and said, "Look, this was good. I like this and whatever." And I think that's something nobody could spoon feed you.
Not at this point.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like I say, because of all the back and forward and the report, they said cut it all out. Let them get a tutor, and they are required to hand in one piece of homework. People were doing all 5 questions, and I was accepting.
That don't make no sense, man.
And
You just pick a question.
Yeah, but they were doing all 5, and I was given reviews on all 5. And if the review wasn't that they would get it. Yeah, well, and that's 25 people. It was like at least 5
And
persons.
intro you did that for?
Yeah,
Wow.
the pass intro class. Yeah,
that
ask me if
class
I
is
blow them out
ridiculous.
one day.
What's that?
One day I blow them out.
You had to?
Wow. Wow.
Monday.
So, Miss Bullard,
Yes.
is it fair to say or fair to ask that the first question, if I submit that just for feedback, you would give me that feedback, but I will select my other question as homework?
Okay.
Is that okay? Because that's
That
what I
is-
did in intro, and I had stopped right there. You gave me feedback on one, and I went ahead and I answered my other question, and that was me.
Okay. So 3 persons I gave that feedback to, and 1 person I
Mhm.
said you would have gotten full points. And then they demanded
Right.
that be their grade. And then they did not do homework. And so I did not attach homework to their grade, and they failed. And then they reported me for that too. When I clearly said,
Well, that on them.
no, but I just saying all is so many issues come out of giving concessions that you want to be careful. Understand
Yeah.
if you say this is for feedback, and I can, your email says this is for feedback. Please, just because you get 100%, you cannot now say, well, that's my grade and I'm not doing enough work.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because I could attest to that. The first question I did for that I submitted for feedback, you gave me 100. You said that would have been full 10 points. And then when I submitted my second assignment, of course I didn't get the full 10 points, and I was quite satisfied because I got a good grade. And that was
Well,
me.
Anita,
So
Anita, that was you. But like I
Right.
say, I have 3 other people saying they're not going to do homework because that's it then. I said, but no, you asked for feedback. So I said that
exactly.
because when feedback means that stops with me. That means I didn't send it to be cross-marked.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so they don't understand.
Exactly.
I explain all of this and they say, well, I do my homework and you didn't give me the grade.
Oh, wow.
Well, maybe they should have taken up an English course because it's quite obvious they don't understand English clearly.
Okay.
Sweetie, Miss Buddha is one of the nicest lecturer I've ever encountered at the school.
Yes, she
and I've been
is.
going to the school for years. Okay?
And you know how much
they probably never run up on Derrick Road before.
Okay. And he's,
okay,
you all
Mr.
know
Rose
he's,
don't play.
he's
Okay?
the deputy governor of the central bank. He don't play at all.
Mr. Rose don't do foolishness, okay? So if
He
you
don't play.
run up and if you've been at Derrick Road class, you better check yourself.
Okay. Okay. So you're like I said, once it's not abused, I don't have a problem helping. But when the abuse start, I just shut down. So again, don't follow the rules. So that y'all can see, I even took all the concessions out of the instruction sheet. Okay, so I don't have a problem helping, but please don't overdo it, and please understand me. Okay, once we understand and we comprehend, then we fine.
Okay.
Well, I am good. I am good.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. All right, good.
All right, so we going on the road now? Cause go ahead and speak.
Ready for the road? Yeah, let me keep you
No,
on.
I
Get ready
got
for the road.
I can't ride with the road. I gotta ride with the road next year. I go. I swear, like I can't ride with the road.
Please, social distance. Don't come next
Road.
week talking about COVID.
Oh.
Don't come next week, but you all enjoy yourself and you all have a safe and enjoyable weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Good day.
Good day, everybody.
Everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.